So I'm just on my way back from the photography show at the NEC, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to have a quick stroll around Birmingham on my way back. The sun is starting to go down a little bit, so we're hitting the streets with the Fuji XS10 and the Viltrox 56mm f1.7. So let's jump over to the POV and see what we can capture. All of the images in this video were edited using Luminar Neo. Watch until the end to see how I went about the edits. Just dialing in my settings. Not 100% sure where I'm going to start today. So I'm just going to have a quick stroll about, see what's going on, and then take it from there. It's been a while since I've come out with the 56mm, so it's going to be interesting to see. I think it's probably been about a year since I've kind of hit the streets with it, so definitely going to see. It's definitely going to be a bit of a challenge to see what I can capture. There's probably a bit of a running trend on the channel now about just abandoned bikes just left, and taking shots of them, because you can kind of make up your own story to see how they were left and why they were left. It's nothing exciting, but I just wonder if I can use this to frame the bike a little bit. It's starting off getting a little bit warmed up more than anything. Like I say, it's going to be a bit of a challenge getting used to this focal length with opting for the 25mm recently. But as always, I'm always up for the challenge, always up to seeing what I can get with the camera. To be honest, I might even try and lift the aperture up to maybe somewhere around f8 for a change. Let's focus more on scenes today than kind of getting that super shallow depth of field. Let's look for kind of a bit more scenes and get a bit more information in those scenes. Let's see. So this might be a little bit more challenging than I was hoping for. So it's also a lot busier than I was expecting it to be as well. So that's always something that I find challenging. It's one of those things. I'm just going to look for like bold colours and kind of quite clean scenes if I can. Sub-framing where possible. I think when I am out with this focal length, I do kind of think about things a little bit differently. This would be kind of really cool. I'm just gonna, yeah, it's cool. I think they clocked me, so they decided they weren't going to stick in the frame. That's all good. It happens. We'll just move on and see what else we can capture. But yeah, what I was saying was, I think focal lengths like this are one of those where, because of the nature of the focal length, you often end up looking more for textures, that kind of thing, rather than scenes, because sometimes you are slightly punched in a bit too tight. Yeah, I know, not really looking at many scenes right now, but it's like that window over there. It's kind of cool shooting through, and then you can see the reflection bouncing back. was just trying to see if I could shoot through the window, but I probably need a polarizing filter to get that shot. It's a little bit too many reflections on it. I'm kind of not having any expectations for this walk, in all honesty. Like I say, I've just on my way back from the NEC, and I've got an hour and a bit to kill before my train home, so I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to get a few frames. Love it. Perfect. I honestly wasn't expecting to be anywhere near this busy today. Yeah, I suppose it is a Saturday night after all. The Lamborghinis are out, so somebody's happy. One day, one day. Try and get it. Yeah, I can't even tell where the sun's coming from, probably over there.
Yeah.
There we go. Over this side, try and get it over there. Definitely prefer the sky the other way. With the sun starting to set. That's kind of cool. So I'm going to try and capture those two walking up there with the reflections above. That could be kind of cool. Just trying to see if we can get one of the pigeons to fly through the frame up there, or seagulls, whichever they are. Typically, as I got the video, they all disappeared. This is one of the things that... There we go, I think we got it. Here we go. More for good measure. Kind of be cool to have something dancing around with the reflections or something as well. So that was a bit of a tough walk, I'm not gonna lie. Not the best light, and a lot of the scenes felt pretty flat. And like with most photo walks, when you get back and you actually start going through the images, you find a few gems that are worth working on. So let me show you how I approached editing these images using Luminar Neo. So when I got back from the walk, the first thing that I did was import all of the images into the catalog. And then from there, I went through and I rated all of my favorite images and the ones that I thought were worth working on 5 stars. And then I had created a new album from those 5-star images. And for today, I'm just gonna walk through a few of my favorite images from the day and a few of my favorite results and how I actually achieved those. This is the final image for this one with all of my edits on, but we're going to come back down to the develop raw tab here, which is where I dialed in all of my base edits. As always, I start pretty simple with dialing in the exposure and the white balance to where I want them. Nothing too heavy, just trying to get a solid base to work from. So going through, I just dialed in my base exposure and boosting this one a little bit. That's the raw image straight out of camera. And then with my base adjustment through exposure, adding a little bit of contrast, reducing the highlights, boosting the shadows a little bit. Dropping the blacks and whites just to give them a bit more punch and crunch. And then here in the curves, I've just put a small S curve and I've actually copied that throughout into the red, green and blues just to give the colors that I want in the image a bit of a stronger foundation. So I've already kind of started to edit the colors in this through the curves to that end result that I'm going for. And when you're editing, it's always helpful to have a goal in mind rather than just aimlessly moving the sliders. And then dialing in the white balance, adding a little bit of saturation and vibrance, and then also tried to transform the image just to give it a little bit of a straighter appearance. And then that is the base edit that all of the images from today's video were created using. Obviously there was some minor adjustments to exposure and things like that and white balance depending on how the image was shot at the time. And a lot of these shots were taken in really flat light. So the main thing that I'm trying to do is bring back a bit of depth to the images. Separating the subjects slightly or controlling some of the light in the scenes like here inside the bus and things like that. Just making the image feel a little bit closer to how it felt in the moment. So going through, after I dealt with the develop tab, getting all of my base adjustments into play, I then started to introduce a little bit of color adjustment to dial those tones and colors into somewhere a little bit closer to where I would like. So I've used the remove color cast feature here just to take a little bit of that color cast from inside the bus window here. You can see there's kind of like this bit of a orangey, if I turn it off, a bit of an orangey tint inside there. So I've just used that color cast remove to kind of neutralize the tones in the image a little bit more inside there so we don't end up with a muddy image at the end. And from there, I've added the structure AI. And what that allows you to do is adjust the clarity of an image. So you can reduce the amount to kind of reduce the clarity, and you can boost it to increase the clarity of an image. With my style of editing, I like to edit my images a little bit on the softer side, so they're not super, the clarity's not boosted a lot. So what I've done in this instance is I've reduced the amount to -20 and then I've boosted that to 20. So if you see here, if I just zoom in and I increase the clarity there, you can see what the boost is just doing there. It just emphasizes that shift in the structure a little bit more. And the purpose of that is just to remove some of that digital perfectness from the image to give it almost like a more filmic look. From there, what I did was I added an extra develop module onto here. And the purpose of that was to make some selective adjustments in this image in particular. If I go back to the original, the inside of the bus was quite dark. And what I wanted to do was draw the attention to the inside of the bus. So I added this extra develop module here, and then using the masking, I was able to select just the inside of the bus and then add some selective adjustments to that area there. So from there, I added an extra structure AI. And the purpose of this one was to go a little bit more granular into some of the selective edits. And for this here, I wanted to add a little bit more haze around this light that was in the top of the bus window. So if I turn that off and then turn it back on, you can see the difference that makes. It just makes a little bit more of like an ethereal glow to the inside there. From there, I added my toning. So in my mid-tones, I'd added like a tealy greeny color. And then in my highlights, I'd added a bit of an orange color just to bring that teal and orange look into the image. And then I'd set the amount to 50 with the balance set to 0. So it wasn't favoring the highlights or the shadows. After there, one of the final touches that I wanted to add to this image was adding a little bit more film grain to lean into that almost film-like look. So if I just zoom in, I've added like a subtle grain. You do have the option to change and play around with the size and the roughness. And again, this all depends on the image that you're working on. And I'd set it around 34. That was just where I felt that it gave the image a little bit of life without overtaking the image. And one of the things I really liked to try and solve this flat lighting problem that I got on the day was this light depth tool. So it allows you to change where the depth of the light is sitting. So you can increase the size. You can also increase the softness, which is almost like the feather of that adjustment. And then you can dial the amount to where you want. And if I just move, if I make this a little bit tighter so it's more visible, and if I just move this through the image, you can actually, let's make it more prominent. As we're moving through here, you can see as it's going through the image, the difference that that's making. So leaving it on 100, let's just turn that off and we turn it back on. And it makes quite a drastic change to the image. And obviously this is a bit of a overcooked instance, setting the amount to 100, but depending on what you're going for, it might be what you need. But this has saved so many of these images where they were suffering from really flat light. It's allowed me to almost embellish the light a little bit more and shape that light to make it feel a little bit more like it felt like on the day. So for these, I kind of set it somewhere where it was impacting inside the bus, and then I'd set it somewhere around 40. And then we'll go before and after. It just draws a little bit more of that attention into the inside there. So the final thing that I added to these images, and this was one of those more selective adjustments that I added, was the magic light. And that was almost, it's a duplication of what I was doing with the structure AI earlier on, where I was creating a little bit more emphasis to that light inside. But I just wanted to give it a little bit more of a glow, a little bit more life to that area inside. And even if I just turn this on and off, you can see the difference that just that little adjustment there makes. And as with most of these tools in here, you have the ability to mask the areas. So what I've done is I've drawn in a mask of where I actually want my magic light to be affecting. So this magic light adjustment is only going to be affecting this light here. So if I didn't have that, it would be affecting the whole image. We're going to move on to another image now. And this is one of the images that in the photo walk, I was talking about. I wish the sunset that I could see on one side was actually on the other side of the image. Just because the sky was quite busy on the other side, you couldn't actually see that sunset. So I thought with this image, it was one that I could try the sky AI out to try and see if I can enhance the sky a little bit more, to bring more of the vision that I had in mind to life. This is where things got really fun with this image. And what I've done here is I've used this dramatic sunset, and it didn't really come across well in the POV footage, but as I was facing the other way towards this statue, I could see a bit of a sunset in the distance, and I thought to myself, it'd be really cool if I could get this shot with the sunset, but with the lighting on the day, I wasn't able to achieve it. You can go a little bit wild with some of these, the sky replacements. It's all done through AI, so there's no heavy lifting of masking to be done. You can fine tune the masks if there's any corrections that you want to make. And this is just straight as Luminar Neo picked out for that. And so let's go through some of these sunsets. And so there's so many options pre-built into this. And it was quite fun just going through and just trying to see, you can end up with a more moody look, a bit more of a dramatic look. And once you've got something that you like, I think this was the one that I used. No, it's not. Which one did I use? Was it this one? Yeah, it was this one. Once you've actually selected the sky that you're interested in, you can actually start making some adjustments to the orientation, depending on how you want it to match your image. Some mask refinements if you want to correct some of the images, like some of the areas around your subjects and stuff, but in this instance, it's done a pretty solid job. You've got your scene relighting, which you can actually use to relight the scene. And that just allows you to blend the new sky into your old image. Obviously, every image is going to be different, so you can just play around with these to suit. Just going from what it was before to what it is now is quite a dramatic change, in my opinion, and I actually really prefer the end result here. There was one thing that I added extra to this image that wasn't needed, but I just thought it was a kind of cool little adjustment to it, and that was using Atmosphere AI. And what I've done here is I've just added a little bit of haze towards the bottom of the image. So if I turn that off and then put it back on, it's only a subtle change, and you can obviously dial it into how you want it to look again. But I just wanted to kind of give the seagull and the statue a little bit more life, a little bit more depth to them, and just bring them to life in the image. And I felt by just adding a little bit more haze towards the bottom helped draw that attention in, making the statue stand out so much stronger. And it just tied the whole image together. I'm not going to go through every image from the walk. I just wanted to highlight a few of the key features that I'd used to bring some of these images to life. But the one thing that I did just want to go back and kind of show and demonstrate a little bit more, if I can just find an image where, I'll tell you what, one of these bike ones from early on. And that is the light depth feature. And this was something that I did utilize quite a lot throughout this walk. And if I just pick one of these images this one, perfect one to look at. So this light depth was something that I did utilize quite a lot because, like I say, the lighting on the day was quite flat. So what I was trying to do was bring a little bit more depth to these images, and this light depth allowed me to do that. I have done a little bit more adjustment to the masking of these just so it's not affecting on the posts here. Because when I was cranking it up, it was almost giving the post a little bit of a weird edge. So what I did was I masked out the post towards the bottom, just so it wasn't impacting that area there. So by using the brush, you can obviously use linear gradient or something, but all I was doing here is just drawing out that there. And then if I just go back and I can invert that mask there, so now all of the adjustments that I make will edit the rest of the image, but not that post there. And that just gives me a little bit more fine tuning over the results that I was getting. And then if you just watch around this bike seat here, and as you can push it back, you can actually change where the lighting is impacting in this image. So if you wanted to create a more backlit look or more of a front lit look, you do have that option there. And I wanted to bring a bit of attention to the subjects. So for the most part, I was trying to use this in a way that drew the most attention to the subjects in the image without making it distracting. So I'm not going to be pushing it too far, which honestly, in this instance, that doesn't actually look too bad. But I was trying to keep it subtle, so it gave it a little bit of life, it gave it a little bit of pop, but it wasn't overcooking it. Before and after, it just changes that focus and draws the attention a little bit closer to what I was intending to be the subject. So to go back to the original point of this video, and can this photo walk actually be saved? And I think, to be honest, yeah, I actually think this image, well, I actually think the photo walk was saved through using Luminar Neo and some of the features that it offers. So I'm just going to go through a few of the images that I posted in the video, and I'm just going to show you the before and after. So we've got some of these bike ones here, and we've got the before, quite flat, quite lifeless, quite grey. But after, we've got this nice depth. We've got this one here, and this one, the light depth actually worked quite well. If we go the before, again, quite a flat grey image, whereas the after, we could create just and bring the focus to where we actually wanted it. So another image here, if we look at the before, quite grey, quite flat, but the after, definitely a drastic improvement from straight out of camera results. After spending a little bit of time with Luminar Neo, I see it as more of a finishing tool, where I add that final layer of mood, depth, and atmosphere that takes an image beyond what I can usually achieve in Lightroom alone. If you want to see how I'll go about using Luminar Neo in conjunction with Lightroom, I've linked my blog on it down below, and if you'd like me to do a dedicated video on that, just let me know. So that was kind of my approach when editing with Luminar Neo for this photo walk. Before we do go, I just want to give channel member Ian Dolan a huge shout out. Thank you so much for all of your support and everything that I put out on this channel, dude. It honestly means so much to me. Let me know which image was your favorite, and ultimately, let me know if you think the edits save the images or not. I'll leave a link to Luminar Neo down below if you want to check it out. Appreciate every single one of you for watching as always, and I'll catch you in the next one.